Hello, everyone. My name is Sheena Brown, and I am delighted to be in this course online with you. I am coming to you from Washington, D.C. I am at a social worker research conference this weekend, and I am also um, living with a cold, so my voice is a bit um, raspy at times, and I'm coughing a bit, but I feel much better than I sound. Because I am away and because I am challenging myself to use technology more, I chose to do this first assignment via video. So please bear with me. So it's very nice to meet you. Again, my name is Sheena Brown. I am a second year Ph.D. student in the School of Social Work at the University of Georgia, and I'm also enrolled in the Interdisciplinary Qualitative Studies Certificate Program. Um, I wrote down a couple of pointers to help guide me, so bear with me if I look off to the side. So my research interests include social work education and other social work practice related issues. I am currently looking at the experiences of Black social workers as it relates to compassion fatigue. Number one, compassion fatigue, which is a phenomenon that is known in the helping professions, very similar to or related to burnout. And also, Black social workers' experience with racial battle fatigue, which is a conceptual framework and a tool, really, that is basically looking at the experiences of people of color when it comes to racism, microaggressions, and the different psychosocial responses to those things. I'm interested in how social workers respond to those things as well. Um, Personally, I am pretty much a non-traditional student. I practiced as a clinical social worker for 18 years postmasters, so it was 18 years between the time I left grad school and came back. So I kind of consider myself a non-traditional student. Like I said before, I shy away from technology a bit, so I'm trying to push myself more when it comes to that. I practiced for 18 years as a mental health and substance abuse treatment provider. I've worked in hospital settings, nonprofits, for-profits, um, private practice. I've done quite a bit of things. I'm still doing a little bit of consulting on the side as I go through my program as well. I am married to my best friend, and we live in the metro Atlanta area. I am a Georgia peach. I grew up in Georgia, actually from a very small town, rural Georgia, in east central Georgia near Augusta. I grew up around the lake, and so I love the outdoors, um, except when it's too hot or too cold. I was born in the fall, and I am a fall baby. Um, my spouse and I enjoy traveling and eating. So that's a little bit about me personally. So I've spent some time reading our assignments, and I want to answer the questions that were presented for us. So in the School of Social Work, we take a course, and I think our numbers do not line up with those in the qualitative department. So ours was Social Work 8166, and it was called Qualitative Research Traditions. And I believe a few years ago, before I started my program, the School of Social Work decided to bring this course in-house. And it is taught by Patricia Reeves, who is a brilliant qualitative researcher and instructor, and she did a very good job. It is equivalent to the Qual 8400, I believe, And as far as the certificate program is related, it is equivalent to that. And one of our final assignment was to come out of that course with a research proposal. My research proposal, I'm going to give you the title. It's changed a bit, but the title that I ended with was a critical qualitative study, inquiry rather, into African American social workers' um, experiences of compassion fatigue and racial battle fatigue. When I say it's changed quite a bit, I do have an IRB approved study for what was a branch off of this proposal. I entitled it Sick and Tired, and it is actually the qualitative inquiry for Black social workers and their experience of compassion fatigue. I decided to leave the racial battle fatigue off um, of this study because I wanted to know a little bit more about it. In this past semester, I did an independent study where I delved more into that, and I feel like I need and that I know a lot more about it. However, when I put in the IRB request, um, I wasn't at that point yet. So the current study is just the experiences of compassion fatigue, which is interesting enough. Um, so yeah, I think I am toying that I'm not sure about ideas about a field site for um, this course. I'm toying with the idea of a couple of counseling centers, but I would like some feedback regarding it. I'm toying with some places that I'm familiar with, that I know who hire Black social workers, um, and maybe observing like the lunch hour or somewhere around that time where people are taking breaks and whatnot. But I'm a little, um, I need some feedback on that. That would be helpful. I intended to reach out to Dr. Paulus about that anyway. So, any feedback on that, what type of site for this type of study would be helpful. So, I'm interested in this topic. I'm sorry. I'm interested in this topic for a couple of reasons. One, being my personal experience as a Black social worker, and the other is the advocacy that I'm committed to for social work wellness, and that is all social workers, Black social workers, and all social workers really, is that this work is very hard, and we need a focus on our wellness in order to do this work, in order to be available to our clients, in order to be available for ourselves and our families as well, to focus on our wellness. And there are so many environmental factors that can complicate our wellness. I am committed to advocating for social work wellness in the workforce. Those two things are, as I was reading Rossman and Rallis, I think they make a salient point about, the fact that it's not unheard of to use your personal biography, and we all come to the table with our own personal philosophies, I think, of what knowledge is, and we have philosophies of science that differ sometimes, um, but I think it's important to note that what I find helpful about qualitative research is that it is interactive and it is interpretive, and I like how they pointed out that the data itself doesn't speak for itself. It requires some thinking and some processing and interpreting, really, in order to, you know, generate findings. I found the writing activity at the end of chapter helpful. And although I didn't write it, I thought about it. And I'll say a little bit more about that later, because I have had some conflict, internal conflict about using myself in this research area. So the Creswell article, I want to say I'm familiar with all of those designs because, we had to learn a little bit about each of them in our um, qualitative research traditions course. And so I feel familiar with all of them. I think that phenomenology I keep coming back to that, although it's kind of hard really to conceptualize it for me. It's hard to conceptualize it. Um, Understanding essence is almost intangible in a sense, and so I feel a little conflicted about it, but I keep coming back to that. And it was interesting that this article in that section where he talked about, or they talked about phenomenology, I think he mentioned the two approaches, and there, I have some struggle, I think, between those two, as I did in um, the paradigm. Uh, I think this was in Rossman. Now I'm forgetting who wrote what, but um, the the paradigm. So that the differences in phenomenology is similar to my struggle between the descriptive interpretivism and the critical humanism, which one I think uses your personal self more than the other. And honestly, I think that struggle comes from being socialized in a culture that privileges um, positivism and post-positivism. Okay, for someone who doesn't know what qualitative research is, I would tell them that it is a branch of inquiry, of obtaining knowledge that goes beyond predicting and um, numbers and prevalence and whatnot, and digs deeper into the whys and the hows. To me, it is going to the source and getting their information directly. All of my questions have been qualitative in nature. I'm, I've always been interested in stories. I've always been interested in finding out more behind the numbers in any quality quantitative study. We look at the implications section, that is a section that I've always been curious about. Why um, these participants answered this question this way. I think it's very important. I think my study and many studies, many qualitative studies, I think it's very important because it gives voice. And I know some people do not like to use that term, giving voice to people, but it privileges voices that have not been privileged in the past. And that is an act of social justice, in my opinion. So I think that is one of the reasons that it's important. And I think it's also important to note that search for knowledge can be diverse. And particular in my field of study, we work directly with people so much as a practice. I don't think that research should be distant from that. I hope that that has not been too long. I see that I've been talking for 14 minutes, so I want to wrap it up. And I hope that I have answered all that I was supposed to answer. Let me make sure that I did. If I can move this. Here's me with fooling around with technology. Okay, so yeah, that was my big picture describing what I believe qualitative research to be, and questions that I have about my assignment. So mainly, Dr. Paulus, I will reach out to you about my study, my approved study. I've spoken to my the primary investigator. She's okay with me using it, so I just have to get that permission to you and the information about the study to you. But I do want to talk to you and any of you guys in the class really about a site. You know, I'm really, I don't know if I understand that completely, and if I do, I'm conflicted about where and when. So I look forward to working with you guys this semester in this course, and I apologize again for my voice and my congestion, but I hope everyone is doing well, and I look forward to feedback. I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.